The Airbnb founder's story is one of the most inspiring stories of the 21st century. Against all odds, with no investors and thousands of dollars of credit card debt, the founders had to resort to selling cereals to keep the company afloat. It took almost 2 years before Airbnb saw some traction. Let's go back to the start. It's late 2007 in San Francisco. Airbnb founders Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia just moved from New York. Without employment, they were having trouble paying their rent and were looking for a way to earn some extra cash. They noticed that all hotel rooms in the city were booked, as the local industrial design conference attracted a lot of visitors. The youngsters saw an opportunity. They bought a few AIRBEDS and quickly put up a site called Bed and Breakfast. The idea was to offer visitors a place to sleep and breakfast in the morning. They charged $80 each a night. The idea succeeded and the first Airbnb guests were born. A 30-year-old Indian man, a 35-year-old woman from Boston, and a 45-year-old father of 4 from Utah sleeping on their floor. Soon after, Harvard graduate and technical architect Nathan Blakarczyk joined the team as the third co-founder. They faced a major problem. The site only had 2 users, one of them was Chesky. They initially launched at South by Southwest and only received 2 bookings. After changing the website, the company launched again in August 2008, not long before the Democratic National Convention in Denver. Over 20,000 people were going to the convention and all hotels were booked out. To fund their startup, they began selling election-themed cereals. The Airbnb founders managed to make a whopping $30,000 selling the Obama O's and Captain McCain's. They also came up with some pretty funny jingles. Check out the landing page they used and listen to the jingles. Airbnb raised its first funding, $20,000 from Y Combinator. They are still making only $200 a week and decide to use the money to travel to New York, their biggest market, to meet their users. New York City was already one of Airbnb's most popular destinations in terms of registering stays, and it was easy to see why. There is always something to do in New York City, and people have plenty of reason to travel there. However, inexpensive travel options are few and far between. These conditions allowed the Airbnb team to safely assume that demand for their service would be high and that they could now begin to experiment with ways to improve the customer experience and increase rentals. They discovered that the main problem is that the pictures of most listings aren't good. They buy a camera and go door to door to take better pictures of the listings. It's January 2009, and the incubator invites the 3 founders to join its winter session for 3 months of training. At the same time, Paul Graham at Y Combinator tries to convince venture capitalist Fred Wilson to invest in Airbnb. Amazingly, you can read the actual email conversation that Graham and Wilson had. Wilson decides to pass, missing out on what would have been a huge winner. After meeting Chesky & Co., he asked them to leave a box of the famous cereals. The box now serves as a reminder for Wilson not to make this mistake again, as he describes in a blog post published 2 years later. After visiting their users in New York, the company finally gets some traction. The focus is changed from shared spaces to all types of accommodation. It's March 2009 and Airbnb has 2,500 listings and close to 10,000 registered users. As they say, the rest is history. Airbnb history. The most recent statistics show that Airbnb now has over 2 million listings in over 190 countries and 34,000 cities. Airbnb hosts have hosted over 40 million guests. The company is worth an estimated $25.5 billion based on the latest round of funding of $1.5 billion. Airbnb is one of the dominant players in Silicon Valley, but they didn't get there by knowing what would happen every step of the way. Sometimes they were blindsided, and other times they went through dry spells. Their success is due to perseverance and not necessarily going for short-term quick fixes. By doing the hard yards, they learned how to build something unique and valuable. They started with desperation, then moved forward with perspiration, and excelled through iteration. As an entrepreneur, to succeed like Airbnb, you must be prepared to embrace the same principles, or the only thing you will find is frustration. Perhaps the most important question is, are you going to invest in the new Airbnb IPO in December? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're new here. And until next time, keep up the hustle.